Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, August 23rd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The case numbers keep rising, and so too the concern and the call for more vaccinations. Today, the county began distributing more than 700 vials of vaccine to health providers, but not nearly enough to meet the demand. KPBS reporter John Carroll talked to one San Diegan who's critical of how the county is handling vaccine distribution.
San Diego needs to fight harder to get more vaccines in San Diego.
We spoke with San Diegan Justin Cressy in his car because he was on a trip, just a short one up to Los Angeles. But it's a trip that Cressy says he shouldn't have had to make. After getting his first monkeypox vaccine in June, he was due for his second one. He used the My Turn app, developed by the state during COVID to help people set up vaccination appointments. Until last night, Cressy thought he'd be able to get that second shot here in San Diego. He says he answered all the screening questions accurately and was given an appointment. That's when he was told the county wasn't giving second shots.
I showed up 10 minutes early, stood in line for over an hour, got all the way inside, checked in, sat down with the nurse, and he told me he could not give me a shot. So I was not very happy.
Fortunately for him, he knows people in the healthcare system in LA County.
They said, just come up to Los Angeles, we'll get you the shot.
Cressy says it took him just a few minutes to get his second shot, but he worries that what amounted to an annoyance for him could be much more serious for others who can't work remotely and who can't just jump in the car and drive up to LA.
Really disappointing that I was unable to get the second shot since I signed up for it, and I was following all the rules, so not really sure, what happened.
Cressy says he's probably not the only person this has happened to. We asked the county health department to make someone available for an interview, but they say no one was. In an emailed statement, they said the county receives vaccine allocations from the state based on the number of monkeypox cases in the past 2 weeks and on syphilis cases among men. This latest vaccine allocation comes from the county's reserves. They say they're expecting 1,000 more soon from the state. But Justin Cressy says they need to do better.
And there's a lot of people in the community that are at risk of getting monkeypox.
One positive note, the county and healthcare providers distributing vaccines are now using a method that allows them to turn one dose into 5, meaning 3,525 doses are going out now, 5,000 more whenever the state shipment comes in. But the case numbers are moving in the wrong direction. 234 positive cases as of this afternoon. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And we have a special page on our website tracking the latest monkeypox news locally with our latest reporting and information on vaccines. Look for the link on our homepage, kpbs.org. The board that oversees San Diego law enforcement wants everyone who enters their facilities to get scanned for drugs. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has more.
If people being detained in San Diego County jails are dying of drug overdoses, the solution seems simple to Paul Parker. He's the executive officer of the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board.
But as far as contractors and employees and county employees, at minimum, search, pat down, metal detector. And I know you might say, well, metal detector, you can't get, drugs aren't going to come in and it's not going to be able to be detected on a metal detector. Something to make sure that people that are being introduced into the facility, no matter who they are somehow scanned.
Recently, the Board of Supervisors voted to support buying a new body scanner for $200,000. But Supervisor Joel Anderson did have questions for Sheriff Anthony Ray. Right now, only people detained, in custody, or inmates go through the scanner.
If deaths continue because of illegal drugs in our jail system, is there any research that we're thinking in terms of to build a case of why we should be scanning or not scanning.
Over the last 5 years, we've had absolutely no proof, no concrete evidence, no cases sustained of anybody bringing narcotics in. So we're focusing the resources we have right now on where we know that drugs are coming in.
Ray says he's also open to figuring out a way to also scan staff, but would have to work with the union. But Parker says the department already rejected one easy thing that could help that doesn't involve searching staff.
The department did reject a recommendation we made to have the incarcerated population, incarcerated persons, go through the scanners upon entering a facility after having left it, not just upon booking, but when they go to court, when they go to medical, to go back through a body scanner at that time when they were reintroduced to the facility, and the department said no.
Parker says they did allow drug-sniffing dogs to check everyone, but he says the recommendations are not just for people in custody. They're also for the safety of their own staff. 16 people have died so far this year in San Diego County jails. 18 died last year, which was considered the deadliest in over 2 decades.
Any one of us could wind up in a county jail tonight. They could be accused of something that they did not do. The majority of folks in county jail who are dying are not convicted or sentenced to anything. So I think that we need to remember that. I think that we need to remember that these are not throwaway people.
A recent report showed that San Diego County jails had the highest rate of overdose deaths in the state based on population. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
San Diego County is experiencing a shortage of behavioral health workers, and the need is only expected to grow in the coming years. Local leaders and professionals gathered this morning to talk about possible solutions. And right now, the county is short nearly 8,000 behavioral health workers in all areas, including schools, law enforcement, and health care.
Think about this. If everyone standing behind me right now broke their leg right now, we would have no problem getting them in, getting them an x-ray.
And, of course, that was Supervisor Chair Nathan Fletcher. He ordered a report on the workforce that shows 18,500 more professionals will be needed by the year 2027, and at least $128 million will be needed to train more people in the field. The city of Chula Vista tonight is voting on a resolution to temporarily close a park that is being used as a tent city by unsheltered individuals. As KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen tells us, the city says a rise in crime is prompting the action.
We all have to go somewhere.
Mama Heather has been homeless for more than 25 years, and for the past 5 months, she's been living at Harborside Park.
I have been this way for a reason, because we all lost our jobs, our homes, some with mental problems, some without mental problems, some with drug problems, some without. It doesn't matter who they are or what they are. They're basically, they came to this situation through the economy.
She's called Mama Heather because she takes care of people, making sure they have what they need. And she makes sure the park stays clean.
When I first got here, the place was a total mess.
Chula Vista Council member John McCann wants to close the park down. He says drug use and crime are making it dangerous for students at nearby Harborside Elementary.
This is not a homeless issue. This is a illegal activity, a drug use issue, and we want to make sure that we're not normalizing this for our children and protecting our most vulnerable children in the Harborside community.
But homeless advocates say it is a homeless issue.
They're going to be completely displaced.
Executive Director at Community for Hope, Sebastian Martinez, says there is no shelter in the city for people. The Chula Vista Bridge shelter is not expected to be open until the end of the year.
It's actually going to, I think, create the exact opposite of what parents are asking for, which is for the area to be safer, because these folks are then going to have to go out into residential areas because they can't congregate at this park.
Martinez says that will make it harder for service providers to help people. And the reason why the people congregate at this park is because it's right next to the County Health and Human Services, and that's where they can get help.
There's a lot of focus on it being next to the school, but at the county building you can get access to vaccines, medicine. They can check on their EBT, they can check on the status of any kind of SSI they're getting. And so that's really why a lot of folks are here.
The City Council will vote on the resolution tonight. If passed, the park will be closed for 90 days with an option to extend the closure. it will cost the city $350,000. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
A state of emergency was declared today in the city of Carlsbad following an increase in collisions involving bikes. The city says there have been 57 collisions involving cyclists so far this year, 100 last year, and 62 the year prior. Those collisions are up more than 230% since the year 2019. City officials say they want to increase attention and resources for infrastructure safety and enforcement, as well as safe driving behavior. Carlsbad's emergency declaration goes into effect immediately until the August 30th council meeting, and at that time, the council will decide if they will ratify it. Tomorrow marks 6 months since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Tens of thousands have died on both sides, including thousands of Ukrainian civilians. 2 million more have been displaced. Reporter Amanda Sansoni with the impact the war has had worldwide.
For 6 months, Ukrainians have been living under siege. As Russia continues to press on with its violent crusade to take control of the country. Roughly 6.5 million people have fled Ukraine, according to the United Nations, with another estimated 6.6 million displaced internally.
We are completely tired. Our city is super destroyed.
Both sides have withstood heavy military casualties. Civilian deaths in Ukraine climbing by the day. And yet half a year on, it remains unclear what Russian President Vladimir Putin can gain from the invasion.
He made a terrible strategic mistake. He assumed that his troops would roll in there and they'd be welcomed by a grateful population, but that turned out not to be the case.
Despite some territorial losses in the east, the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv has yet to fall. The underprepared Russian military flagging amid the Western-supported Ukrainian resistance.
Its soldiers, in contrast to the Russian soldiers, remain highly motivated since they're fighting on their homeland, they're protecting their own territory.
And now, Ukrainian defense officials are planning a massive counteroffensive to reclaim Kherson and other parts of the country, as Russia still shows no signs of retreating.
It's very unclear where this is all headed.
In Washington, I'm Amanda Sansoni.
A year after America ended its longest war, thousands of Afghans are settling into new lives inside the U.S. Though advocates say the U.S. is not doing enough, especially to help women who remained behind and are now under threat from the Taliban. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh has the story.
Masuma Ismailzada and her 5 sisters evacuated from Afghanistan August 30th last year. They were allowed only 1 backpack each. She takes me through their Mira Mesa home. She's embarrassed that their house is furnished mainly by donations.
Right now, when I see the newcomers, new Afghan comers, I do my best to help them because I can feel whatever they are feeling right now.
Their father died a month before. With no male relative living with them, they were virtually trapped in their home as the Taliban took over Afghanistan.
It's something like a nightmare. Maybe for the people who are living in U.S., it looks like a movie. But for us, every minute was like a horror film. We didn't know what will happen next.
Her family arrived in San Diego in January. Before they fled, she taught English literature at the local university. Occasionally, in the middle of the night now, Ismailzada holds virtual classes with her former students because English has been removed from the curriculum, and women are often barred from class.
They had goals, dreams, but right now they said, we do not know about our tomorrow. What should we do? They are really broken. Yeah.
She now works with the Maestra Community Health Centers, helping other recent arrivals. The transition to the U.S. is especially tough for Afghan women. Her father stressed education. One sister is a neurosurgeon, another is an architect, though many of the other women Ismailzada works with cannot read or write.
Some of the organizations, when they help, they say that, okay, you have to start working. But how? When they do not have any knowledge, when they do not know the language. when they do not even have that self-confidence to work.
In the hectic last days of the American presence in Afghanistan, the U.S. prioritized getting out people who had worked with the U.S. And Devin Cohn with Refugees International says the focus was on those who might qualify for special immigration visas, or SIVs.
Because of the work that these women did, they were at risk by the Taliban. Yet they didn't work for the U.S. government. They weren't subcontractors for U.S. government funding. So there really was no way, and there's still very few ways for them to get to the U.S.
Sean Van Diver's group Afghan Evac formed to coordinate a range of vet groups who were working to get people out of Afghanistan. 1 year out, he's worried public attention is fading.
And what's really important is that the world doesn't stop talking about this, because as soon as the world stops talking about it, that's when we're going to see the uptick. And what we saw when Ukraine kicked off was that there was an uptick in raids on houses, in beatings.
The group supports the recently introduced Afghan Adjustment Act, which would help Afghans caught in immigration limbo. Masuma Esmailzade's sister Gulsum Mismailzadeh worked with the USAID, and not directly with Americans. But it was enough to get her family on the radar for their last-minute evacuation. Glad to be safe, she's also sad that she's now part of a brain drain forced by the Taliban.
It made me sad, and it just telling me that my education was useless. Then I cannot use it for my own people, for my country, so it may be useless for the time being. So that's the thing that made me disappointed and hopeless.
Without some other permanent solution, the sisters now have 2 years to make it through the backlogged immigration process. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
We're almost 2 months out from the general election, and today we have an idea of how voters are leaning in the race for governor. A UC Berkeley poll out today shows Gavin Newsom with a commanding lead in his re-election effort. He's up more than 20 points among likely voters, 55 to 31%, over Republican Brian Dahle, a state senator from Reading. The same poll shows a similar result, 54 to 27%, in San Diego County. A storm system that devastated parts of northeastern Texas is moving east, with millions under threat of flash flooding in Louisiana and Mississippi. Isabel Rosales has the latest.
My apartment is literally flooding. I just woke up and should I call 911? What do I do?
A weather whiplash, extreme drought, and now record-breaking rainfall in Texas. A stunning more than 9 inches falling in the Dallas area over a 24-hour period. Not seen since 1932.
Caught people off guard, but I think everybody wasn't anticipating this much rain this fast.
The torrential rains and floodwaters rushing through streets and homes. Rescue crews scrambling to hundreds of calls for help. Governor Greg Abbott signing a disaster declaration for 23 counties.
Needless to say, the effect of this storm has been dramatic.
The rising waters also devastating parts of Utah and Arizona.
You just don't know what to do, what to move. You don't know where to start. It's unbelievable.
The heavy rain now crawling east, threatening Louisiana and Mississippi. The greatest risk in southern Arkansas and northern Louisiana. Dark clouds looming over Shreveport just days before the 17th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
A wildfire that burned over 188 acres in Pine Valley was 25% contained today, but the forward rate of spread has been stopped. It started on Monday morning off Pine Creek Road in Noble Canyon, and within 3 hours had burned about 120 acres. No structures were in immediate danger. It took 300 personnel on the ground and in the air to subdue the fire.
Heading through the next couple of days here, the monsoon moisture starting to return a little bit for us. So we're going to find a few more showers and thunderstorms, especially through the mountains and into some of the deserts. Staying quiet, though, for much of the coast. I don't think we see a lot of action here. it'll be drier heading into the late week as a whole across the region. So for tonight, we've got temperatures falling back into the lower and upper 60s in some spots. Upper 60s for San Diego. We're headed to 68 in Oceanside. And notice Mount Laguna coming in the mid 60s. All is pretty quiet out there for your night, but pretty quickly off the gate, we will have some shower thunderstorm activity coming in from the monsoon. Now, the bulk of the monsoon stays farther east, but we'll get some of those showers and thunderstorms trying to cut across our region as we head through tomorrow. So tomorrow, we do have those extra clouds out there. We do have some shower and thunderstorm activity. Does it make it all the way to the beaches? Unlikely, but we will have at least that small chance of some thunderstorms in the region of the city. 78 for the high. Mount Laguna coming in at 79 degrees, and Borrego Springs still towards the triple digits there, but with that chance of rain. Here's how Futurecast plays it out for us. And again, that moisture coming in pretty quickly with the monsoon. Notice it starts kind of in southern Mexico or northern Mexico, moves northward here, so just off to our south. Most of it will probably stay in the mountains and deserts. Could we see a stray shower or two try to work closer to town? Certainly, but it's not as likely. We get into Thursday, and we've still got that extra moisture around, so we will be talking about at least the small chance for some rainfall remaining. Towards the coast, the clouds remain here for Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, looking a little bit brighter out there as we get some drier times for you. Inland locations dealing with a pretty quiet trend as temperatures hold on to the upper 80s, near 90 degrees. I think there's a few extra clouds here for the middle of the week for us. Mountain locations, though, showers and thunderstorms persist for Wednesday and Thursday. Then, like I said, the late week, we really dry out, brighten things up towards the weekend. And that's going to be true for some of the desert locations. Thunderstorm around for Wednesday and Thursday, then a little bit quieter and drier. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
A former Motel 6 in Vista will soon be converted into studio apartments billed as affordable housing. But KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne talked to one Vista council member who says at $1,400 a month, the units are hardly low cost.
The Vista City Council has approved the transformation of a former Motel 6 into a studio apartment building. The renovated property will include 75 studio apartments, averaging 375 square feet. The rent price will be based on market rates at the time they are rented. If construction was completed today, the rents would be around $1,400 per month, according to the property developers. Councilmember Corina Contreras voted against the project, saying the rent is anything but affordable.
What I disagree with is calling this any kind of attainable or affordable housing because it is not deed restricted. And essentially what this developer is doing is very modest modifications.
Contreras says brand new luxury studio apartments with more square footage are going for approximately $2 per square foot in the city of Vista. While these,
if we're looking at $1,500 per room at an average of 375 square feet, that's $4. Did I do the math right? That's $4 per square foot. That is outrageous. It is absolutely outrageous. Without a deed restriction, I can't swallow this for the community.
Contreras toured a model unit before her vote and was unimpressed. She says that for that price, she would like to see more renovations.
For someone to be paying $4 per square foot for a new paint job, 375 square feet of space where previously people were allowed to smoke, and the room hasn't been gutted, there hasn't been an attempt to mitigate that. That's a huge issue for me too.
Other concerns raised were the traffic on the busy road leading to the 78 freeway and the lack of public transportation nearby. Wardell Campbell pays $950 a month for a low-income studio apartment in Vista.
Yes, I got an excellent deal. I got lucky. Actually, I was blessed more than anything. So I'm definitely appreciative of what I do have.
Like Contreras, he doesn't think the new project will alleviate the area's affordability crisis.
$1,300 is way too much. I think maybe more reasonable price for low income, no more than $1,000, especially with the Motel 6 and the rooms are just so much smaller. So even $1,000 I feel as though is way too high. You know what I mean? I think something reasonable, maybe $700, $800 maybe for something like that.
No date has been set on when the units will be available. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Smiles all around as a new family-friendly park opened at once vacant lot in Valencia Park. The $2.6 million La Paz mini park will provide a high-quality recreational space and a great location for kids to release that energy and have some fun.
Well, here we are today being the good neighbors that we ought to be. If this neighbor's willing to invest in themselves, we need to be able to meet and support them, and we're doing that.
I'm happy all the kids are here, that they have the opportunity to play and just be safe in this area.
And the park also features multi-purpose turf areas, improved landscaping and irrigation, security lighting, and ADA-compliant pathways to facilitate access for all users. Padres shortstop Fernando Tatis spoke publicly for the first time since he was suspended for a positive PED test. He says he's sorry and understands the anger and frustration, and that he feels he's, quote, lost so much love from people, unquote. Tatis went on to say he failed the team, the fans, his teammates, and his country. He also maintains that the medication that he used was used to treat ringworm, and that he plans to have surgery on his shoulder. There's a new baby at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. The little male white rhino doesn't have a name just yet, but he was born to first-time mother Livia at the Nikita Rhino Resource Center. The calf was conceived through natural breeding on August 6th, and the unnamed calf conceived through the natural breeding is going to remain in a private enclosure until it's ready to meet the rest of the herd. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.